Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Yacov Salomon, co-founder and head of science and innovation here at Ketch. I am a mathematician, a scientist, and a technologist by trade. I spent the last 2 decades solving hard problems in the machine learning, AI, and big data space. And along the way, built a lot of product teams and companies. Ketch is a data control platform for programmatic privacy, governance, and security protection of data. We help organizations solve the complexity of becoming and staying compliant with the mountain of regulation coming their way. I'm joined today by Adam Korn, Chief Information Officer at 6th Street, one of our marquee customers. Adam is a pioneer in leading Goldman Sachs' push into technology during his 18 years tenure. As global head of their securities division and technology, he led a team of hybrid traders and coders. More about that soon, as well as the development of Goldman's securities platform Marquee. He joins several other former Goldman executives, alums at 6th Street Partners, a CIO at 6th Street Partners. Adam is building a next generation platform for asset management. Hi, Adam. Pleasure to have you here. It's an honor.
It's a pleasure to be with you today. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, of course. So I thought maybe we'll start by getting your perspective on what some term the age of data and technology. These two pivotal forces that are shaping, in many ways, almost everything that happens on planet Earth today. You have a unique perspective as being at the driver's seat of the financial industry journey into data and technology. In many ways, finance has pioneered all of this from the physicists rolling into Wall Street in the 80s and the rise of the quant and the rise of the and maybe you can start unpacking it with I saw a quote when you left Goldman Sachs in February 2020. There was an article in the Wall Street Journal that called you the king of traders. So maybe you can help us understand what traders are and how does that fit into the global data and technology revolution?
Sure. So if I think back on my career at Goldman, one of the things that was pretty evident early on is that technology was going to play a big role in trading. And that was true, I think, day one. The only difference is that, when I started, that vision hadn't been realized. And it was very exciting to join Goldman at a point where, we had to solve that problem.
Mm-hmm.
So, we started that journey, and it became clear as we started to develop algorithms and systematic trading strategies that the technology was crucial to what we were doing. But it also became clear that the data was really the food for the technology. And so, as you can imagine, we built an entire platform around being able to price and trade and risk manage, really every type of security that you can electronically trade. And so, and then I think that over time, the skill set became predominant in some markets, and the composition of skills evolved, and it was clear that that was really the skill set that was required to run the business. And so I coined the term trader to really be the hybrid of a trader and a strategist. And a strategist at Goldman, or otherwise known as a strat, is really a data scientist. So data scientists, engineers, and really traders are people who have a good sense of market dynamics. Eventually took over a lot of trading businesses at Goldman Sachs.
Yeah, I mean, I read some statistics somewhere. You could probably repeat it. That I don't know what percentage of the employees at Goldman Sachs now are actually engineers, people that write code, as opposed to the traditional way we think of Wall Street as people on the floor trading.
It's about a third, actually. So it's 35,000 employees total, and a third are engineers, which is really phenomenal. But as far as people that are actually in trading businesses, that percentage has grown dramatically over time. And from, I think about that first day at Goldman when I joined and we thought about the promise of electronic trading at Goldman, there were 400, human traders specifically in the equities business. And by the time that I left, we were down to under 10.
Wow. Wow.
But of course, we replaced those people with engineering backgrounds and data science backgrounds. So it wasn't like, but it just really what had happened was just the field had evolved from people who could keep track of things in their heads.
Yep.
And those data points were used to calibrate pricing and risk manage, to machines that were doing most of that work. And so what we realized was that not only did we need the people to build the machines, but we needed people who could operate the machines, that could debug and go into, in real time into the code and data to figure out what was happening and why it was happening.
Amazing. Yeah, huge. And the work you did in that you led in Goldman Sachs and in general the finance industry has led in adding algorithms and data and technology, of course, opened the door to all of the revolution of data and technology we see everywhere else. So that's quite amazing. Here's another trend that kind of we're seeing, and I think by now everybody kind of feels it, and you probably seen it again. Maybe first is the headwinds that coming towards data and technology in the form of regulatory compliance, data breaches, privacy regulations. I wanted to spend a moment maybe unpacking the three key areas where Ketch is going to help Sixth Street. Mainly the first one on the data stewardship, just understanding what data you have. You can't govern data without knowing what data you have and how we're helping you in the discovery and classification and cataloging. And then the second one is around access control and how the open and granular framework for policies is helping you manifest the various patterns of access that you need. And maybe the third one about managing risk and enabling new use cases through this idea of data transformation at access, modern cryptography, techniques of statistical obfuscation and masking and encryption that are available today. So maybe we'll start with the first point.
Yeah, so I think, for us, I think just basic technology risk principles would dictate that we need to understand and really start to categorize the data that we have available at Sixth Street. And that's something that is in progress right now. As you can imagine, and that was, even though I'm working in a greenfield environment, clearly we have years of data that need to be organized, and we need to really think about, is this really sensitive data? Is this less sensitive data? And so, I think that, using tools to help determine where we categorize and what data assets we have and licensing, that's absolutely critical. And so this is clearly not something that we wanted to, an exercise that we wanted to undertake, by hand. And so it's great to have some technology assistance with that process. As it relates to, I guess policies, I think you were asking about, like use cases.
That's right.
And access controls. Okay. Yes. So so currently at Sixth Street, although this is likely going to change in the next few months, but we currently have a wall between our structured credit business, or what we call credit market strategies business, and all of the private investing businesses. And so we have to be very careful about what employees on one side of the wall can access versus the other side. And while we have workflows that prevent people from being able to access data, the engineer in me wants to do that programmatically. I want to make sure that, and yes, there, we have access to traditional, RBAC type controls, but I think that in our world, the data is a lot more granular, and it really is a function of workflow and use case. It's a function of role, and even within role, there are some nuances to it. So we really do need the ability to craft policies around people in the organization, and we need the ability to test those policies. We need the ability to validate that those policies are still the right ones to have in place. And so certainly as it relates to access control, there is no one standard model that's going to fit 6th Street. And so we really do need a solution that's going to cater to all of the use cases and nuances we have across the business.
Yeah.
Sorry, please.
We often, access control is one of these things that as engineers, we always, IT was always in charge of. I talked to many chief security officers, and they'll say that, everybody suffers from the same sprawling of access privileges, where 100% of engineers have access to 100% of the data, even though they use only 2%. You mentioned programmatic. That's definitely how we see it. The fact that access control needs to move to the big data age, and really meet the data where it is, and being able to be programmatic and extremely granular beyond just who is accessing, like the role base. We need to have a much better understanding of how to meet the data and the use cases and the purposes together.
Yeah, I was going to mention, we just hired a new head of cybersecurity or information security at 6th Street. And first thing he's doing is looking at what kind of framework we should be implementing. And so we talked about Ketch, and specifically some of the access control issues that we have, and controls that we want to implement. And he was really excited because he knew that this would be a deep problem that he would have to spend a lot of time on. Of course, without the right tooling and software, this is very, very hard to do. I hadn't seen any solutions, frankly, that were off the shelf that could cater to our use cases. And so it's great to be able to partner with you guys on this. I know it was a selling point for him when we were recruiting him, to say that that we were working with you. So because otherwise, again, if he were to have to do this by hand, this is a very painful and lengthy process.
Absolutely. And building systems like that, then sometimes people think build is easy. Maybe it is, but then you're left maintaining it for perpetuity.
Well, I think that was sort of implied in his pushback on having to do this himself.
Exactly. Okay, and the third point we've mentioned, and I'd like to, it would be great to hear some use cases you have around that, but there is this quite revolution happening in the background in modern, what I call modern day cryptography, ideas like differential privacy and homomorphic encryption and zero knowledge proofs, etc., that try to help this middle road between I have to lock down the data and lose the utility, or I open it up and let 1,000 flowers bloom with data and technology, but then I open myself up for the risk. How is it that these advanced transformations that are available through our policy enforcement tools, like masking, like tokenization, like statistical obfuscation, is going to help 6th Street enable new use cases around data that before would have been too risky or too sensitive to enable?
If I think back to my days at Goldman, we ran into a problem where I think this technology really could have helped us. And of course, we ended up building our own solution to it, but we didn't generalize it. But it was around our prime brokerage data. So obviously, that's the most sensitive data that we had at the bank. And we were very, very careful about protecting it and making sure that only people within prime brokerage had access to it. But obviously, there's some value in bringing the data together, anonymizing it, and providing some sense of like where we're seeing flows. What are the themes that we're seeing in those flows? And that's color that often clients of the firm would want to know. Um, and people within prime brokerage and across, frankly, the whole firm, our clients at Goldman wanted to know, what was going on, and so we thought very hard about this problem. And so this balance of, how much noise do you add to the data without diluting the value of it and not obviously divulging the underlying contents of it, was one that we thought very deeply about. And I know that at Sixth Street, there's a whole bunch of problems because we're dealing in private company transactions, and we're getting access to a lot of sensitive data, and we want to get a sense, we want to be able to communicate to our LPs and to potential LPs, the nature of companies that we're making investments in and the characteristics of those companies. And so inevitably, I see similar types of problems to the one that we had to solve at Goldman. So I think there's always this use case around having very, very sensitive data that has some valuable signal in it, but not being able to divulge that, so it can provide some informational value. And I think that various techniques around differential privacy, adding statistical noise to the data are while today I haven't seen a lot of solutions that are like commonplace. I think in 5-10 years time, especially as regulators become more fluent in these techniques, this is going to be table stakes. Every company on the planet is going to have to employ these techniques.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad to be partnering with you guys on how to do this.
Fantastic. Okay, maybe the last question, and I'd love to get your perspective on, you were there for the data and technology revolution in the finance. That was kind of the pioneering for the rest of the industry. You had to deal very early on with regulatory compliance, some pain that some folks in the industry are feeling just today. So you're clearly one step ahead. So maybe you can enlighten us all what's coming next in Sixth Street and in general. How do you see this fast train of data and technology continuing to innovate and change our lives?
So I know a lot of people are very focused on crypto right now. I think with the valuations, it's hard not to be focused on crypto, but it's the underlying technology of crypto, which is blockchain and DLT, where I think that there are deep applications across really the entire field of finance. Everything from clearing and settlement to underwriting loans for customers. I think the technology itself can be used to help facilitate and eliminate a lot of workflow, which historically has created friction in the system. Mm-hmm. And so I'm beginning to think deeply about how we can apply some of those technologies as we rebuild the infrastructure at Sixth Street, and specifically around new workflows, new automated workflows, and that will apply to everything from internal workflows that we have at Sixth Street. So throughout the underwriting process to everything that would be more external facing. And so I think that there are a lot of really interesting blockchains that are emerging that we're beginning to experiment with, and that would be something that certainly in financial services I would watch.
Amazing. Yeah, I mean, we're keeping a close eye on blockchain as well, and in particular, what does governing data on systems like blockchain means. I think that's a very exciting area of innovation, and I hope we partner on that as well in the coming years.
I'm sure we will.
All right. Thank you very much, Adam. Thank you for your time today. It's been a pleasure speaking with you and learning and from your deep insights into this world of data and technology.
Thanks so much. I really appreciate it. A lot of fun.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We'd love to stay connected. Please visit us at ketch.com, where you can request a demo and learn more about the great software that we are building here and deploying in customers like Sixth Street at ketch.com/YouTube. And if you are a developer We are very much a developer first platform. You can learn more about our extensive set of APIs at developers.ketch.com, where everyone can build their privacy and governance solutions with Ketch technology.